Most people believe discipline is about waking up early, following routines, and forcing themselves to work when they don't feel like it. That belief is the first lie that keeps them weak. Discipline is not a habit. It is not motivation, and it is definitely not comfortable. Real discipline is something far more dangerous. It is the deliberate destruction of the version of you that seeks approval, reacts emotionally, explains itself, and needs to be understood. Look around you. The world is filled with people who talk too much, explain too much, feel too much, and react too fast. They believe expression is strength. They believe transparency is honesty. They believe being open makes them powerful. In reality, it makes them predictable, and predictable people are controllable people. Power does not fear effort. Power fears silence, because silence hides intention. Silence removes emotional access. Silence makes others project their fears onto you. This book is not about becoming productive. It is about becoming unreadable. From the moment you were young, you were trained to explain yourself, to justify your choices, to soften your ambition, to make others comfortable with your direction. Every explanation weakened you. Every apology trained you to shrink. Every emotional reaction handed someone else the steering wheel of your mind. Dark discipline begins the moment you stop doing that. It begins when you realize that emotions are not commands. They are signals. Signals that most people obey blindly. They feel fear and retreat. They feel anger and explode. They feel boredom and seek distraction. They feel discomfort and quit. The disciplined individual does something far more unsettling. They feel, and then they act against what they feel. When they feel tired, they move. When they feel angry, they become silent. When they feel insecure, they tighten their standards. When they feel emotional, they become precise. This is emotional alchemy, the conversion of weakness into control. And control is the currency of power. You were never meant to be loud. You were meant to be effective. Isolation was never meant to punish you. It was meant to sharpen you. Most people fear being alone because solitude exposes the noise inside their own mind. They drown it with people, entertainment, opinions, and validation. The disciplined individual does the opposite. They weaponize isolation. They cut unnecessary voices. They step back from constant interaction. They allow silence to burn away weakness. In isolation, excuses have nowhere to hide. In isolation, identity becomes clear. In isolation, you either break or you are rebuilt. And when you return differently, calmer, colder, more controlled. People will sense it without understanding it. They will notice that you no longer explain, that you no longer react, that you no longer rush to be liked. This unsettles them, because manipulative people depend on emotional access. They depend on predictable reactions. They depend on your need for validation. When those doors close, their power disappears. This book is about closing those doors. It is about raising your standards so high that comfort feels like an insult. It is about guarding your time as if it were territory, because it is. It is about becoming so internally disciplined that chaos outside you loses its grip. The final stage is the most difficult. The death of the old self. The self that apologizes for ambition. The self that explains dreams prematurely. The self that seeks permission to become powerful. That version of you must be killed consciously, not violently, not emotionally, but decisively. What emerges is not cruel. It is sovereign, a person who does not chase approval, a person who does not beg for understanding, a person who does not reveal weakness in public, a person who builds quietly and let results speak in their place. This kind of discipline will not make you popular. It will make you untouchable. And if something inside you is tightening right now, if a part of you recognizes what is being described, then you already know this is not just another video. Before we go any further, understand this. This path is not for spectators. It is for those willing to become something different. If you are ready to walk it, not today, not tomorrow, but consistently, then stay with us. And before we continue, make a silent commitment. Stay connected to this channel. because what comes next is not motivation. It is transformation. Chapter 1. Discipline is identity, not habit. Most people fail at discipline. For a simple reason, they treat it as something they do, not something they are. They collect habits the way others collect motivational quotes, morning routines, productivity hacks, willpower tricks. And when those habits collapse, as they always do, they assume the problem is laziness. It isn't. The real problem is identity. Habits sit on the surface of behavior. Identity sits beneath it. You can force a habit for a few weeks. You cannot force an identity. You become it. This is why discipline collapses the moment life applies pressure. When stress arrives, habits negotiate. Identity does not. A disciplined identity does not ask, "Do I feel like it?" It asks, "Who am I?" And then it acts accordingly. Most people secretly identify as emotional creatures. They believe feelings deserve obedience. If they feel tired, they rest. If they feel discouraged, they stop. If they feel unmotivated, they wait. This identity makes discipline impossible. Dark discipline begins when you replace the emotional identity with a sovereign one. A sovereign does not negotiate with emotion. A sovereign observes emotion, then overrides it. This is not cruelty. It is a hierarchy. Emotion is placed beneath command. Once this shift happens, discipline stops feeling like effort. It becomes an alignment. You no longer try to be consistent. You simply act in accordance with who you are. This is why truly disciplined people appear calm, not strained. They are not fighting themselves. They have already decided who is in charge. The undisciplined mind is democratic. Every impulse gets a vote. The disciplined mind is authoritarian. Only the mission speaks. This is why discipline cannot be taught through tips alone. It requires a redefinition of self. Ask yourself this honestly. When you break promises to yourself, what voice do you hear? Is it one of command or one of excuse? Excuses are not mistakes. They are expressions of identity. If you identify as someone who sometimes slips, then slipping is not failure, it is confirmation. Dark discipline demands a different self-image. Not "I am trying to be disciplined," but "I do not act otherwise." This distinction changes everything. The moment discipline becomes identity, shame disappears. There is no inner argument, no drama, no need for motivation. There is only execution. This is also why discipline threatens others. When you act without emotional justification, you expose their dependency on it. Your silence highlights their noise. Your consistency exposes their chaos. They will call you cold, obsessive, extreme. What they are really sensing is hierarchy. A disciplined identity makes you difficult to manipulate because manipulation relies on emotional access, guilt, approval, fear of rejection. When those levers stop working, control evaporates. This is why true discipline requires withdrawal, not isolation for loneliness, but isolation for clarity. You cannot rewrite identity while surrounded by people who benefit from the old one. Every environment rewards a version of you. If your environment rewards weakness, it will resist your strength. Dark discipline requires friction. Friction reveals truth. When comfort is removed, identity is exposed. When distraction disappears, the character speaks. This is why disciplined individuals are careful with time. Time is where identity is practiced. They do not waste hours explaining themselves. They do not flood their days with stimulation. They do not dilute focus with noise. They guard time because time reinforces identity. What you repeat daily becomes who you are, and who you are determines what feels natural. The goal of discipline is not control, it is inevitability. To reach a point where the disciplined action feels more natural than the undisciplined one, where deviation feels wrong, not difficult. This is not achieved through intensity alone. Intensity burns out. It is achieved through standards. Standards eliminate negotiation. A person with standards does not decide each day whether to act. The decision was made long ago. This is why disciplined people appear predictable in action, but unpredictable in reaction. They do not react emotionally. They do not explain themselves. They do not seek permission. Their behavior is stable because their identity is fixed. And this stability creates power. Because power is not dominance. It is reliable under pressure. Anyone can perform when inspired. Only identity performs when exhausted. This chapter is not asking you to work harder. It is asking you to redefine yourself. Stop asking, how do I build discipline? Ask instead, what kind of person would never act this way? Then begin acting from that answer. Not perfectly, not loudly, but consistently. Discipline is not something you install. It is something you become, and once it becomes an identity, it cannot be taken from you. In the next chapter, we will explore the first weapon that forges this identity: silence. Because before discipline can rule your actions, it must first rule your mouth. Chapter 2: The Discipline of Silence. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the absence of leakage. Most people speak far too early, far too much, and for the wrong reasons. They talk to relieve anxiety, they talk to be seen, they talk to confirm that they exist, and in doing so, they give away power. Silence is the first real discipline because it attacks the deepest addiction of the undisciplined mind, the need to be acknowledged. When you speak unnecessarily, you reveal priorities. When you explain yourself, you reveal insecurity. When you announce your plans, you invite interference. Silence closes all three doors. This is why silence feels uncomfortable at first. It removes the emotional crutch of validation. In silence, you are alone with your intent. Most people cannot tolerate this. They confuse visibility with progress, noise with momentum, reaction with relevance. But power is built in places where no one is watching. The disciplined individual understands a simple truth: attention is not leverage, results are. Silence allows work to mature without exposure. It protects ideas before they are strong enough to stand. It prevents premature judgment, sabotage, and dilution. This is why silence is often mistaken for weakness. In reality, it is preparation. A silent person is not empty. They are loading. There are two kinds of silence. The first is weak silence, the silence of fear, avoidance, and suppression. This silence shrinks. The second is sovereign silence, the silence of control, patience, and intent. This silence expands. Dark discipline requires the second. Sovereign silence is chosen, not endured. It is not about hiding, it is about timing. You do not speak because you can, you speak because it serves the mission. Everything else is waste. Notice how powerful individuals speak less but say more. They do not narrate their thoughts. They do not explain their process. They do not defend their position. They let outcomes speak. This unnerves people. Silence forces others to project. They fill the gap with assumptions. They reveal their fears through interpretation. A person who speaks too much gives others nothing to imagine. A silent person becomes a mirror. This is why silence shifts power dynamics. When you stop explaining yourself, weak minds grow anxious. They are used to emotional access. They rely on cues, reassurance, and signals. Silence denies them all three. It creates asymmetry. You see them. They do not see you. This asymmetry is leverage. But silence is not passive. It requires discipline. It means resisting the urge to correct misunderstandings. It means allowing people to think what they want. It means letting disrespect reveal itself instead of reacting to it. Reaction is surrender. Every emotional reaction hands control to the external world. Silence takes it back. This is especially true in conflict. Most conflicts escalate because one side needs to be understood. They argue to feel validated. The disciplined individual does not need this. They allow silence to do the work. Silence forces the other person to either escalate, revealing insecurity, or retreat. Either outcome provides information. Speaking too soon destroys this advantage. Silence also restructures your inner world. When you stop speaking externally, you begin hearing internally. Your thoughts sharpen. Your intent clarifies. Your tolerance for nonsense collapses. you become more selective. Selective speech is a sign of self-respect. You stop performing for rooms that have not earned access. This is why silence often leads to isolation, not because you reject people, but because fewer conversations are worth having. And this isolation is not a loss. It is filtration. Noise attracts noise. Silence attracts gravity. People begin to feel your presence before you speak. Your words carry weight because they are rare. Scarcity creates value, even in speech. This is also why silence terrifies manipulative individuals. Manipulation requires emotional hooks. Silence removes them. No reassurance, no defensiveness, no visible reaction. The manipulator has nothing to grab. They either expose themselves or disappear. This is discipline at work. But silence must be paired with action. Silent stagnation is decay. Silent execution is power. You do not announce your grind, you demonstrate it. You do not seek praise. You let results disrupt expectations. This builds an internal confidence that is unshakable, because it is not dependent on applause. Your identity begins to shift. You stop needing to be seen. You start needing to be effective. This transition marks the end of performative discipline and the beginning of real discipline. Real discipline is quiet. It does not motivate. It does not inspire. It does not explain. It executes. Silence also protects your future self. Every word you speak becomes a promise others expect you to keep. Silence keeps your future flexible. You move without pressure. You adapt without explanation. This is freedom. The disciplined individual speaks last, or not at all. They listen more than they reveal. They observe patterns instead of opinions. Silence turns the world into a classroom. People teach you who they are when you stop interrupting them. This is why silence is the first weapon. Before you can control action, you must control expression. Before you can master discipline, you must master restraint. Silence is restraint in its purest form. It is not emptiness, it is compression. And compression creates force. In the next chapter, we will move deeper, from silence of speech to silence of reaction. Because true discipline is not about what you say. It is about how you respond when pressure arrives. Chapter 3. Emotional Alchemy. Most people believe discipline means control over action. They are wrong. True discipline begins with control over emotion. Not suppression, not denial, but transformation. This is where most systems fail, because emotions are misunderstood. People are taught that emotions are either truths to obey or weaknesses to eliminate. Both ideas are incorrect. Emotion is raw energy. Undisciplined emotion controls you. Disciplined emotion fuels you. This is the foundation of emotional alchemy. The undisciplined person reacts to how they feel. The disciplined person acts in opposition to how they feel. That single distinction changes everything. When you are tired, the undisciplined person rests. The disciplined person moves. When you feel discouraged, the undisciplined person withdraws. The disciplined person advances. When fear appears, the undisciplined person negotiates. The disciplined person executes. This is not masochism. It is sovereignty. Emotions are signals, not commands. But most people live as emotional servants. They wait to feel motivated. They wait to feel confident. They wait to feel ready. And while they wait, nothing changes. Emotional alchemy teaches a brutal truth. Motivation follows action, not the other way around. The disciplined individual does not ask, "How do I feel about this?" They ask, "What must be done?" regardless of feeling. This creates a psychological separation. You stop identifying with your emotions. You start observing them. Fear becomes data. Anger becomes energy. Doubt becomes resistance to push against. Nothing is wasted. This is why disciplined people appear emotionally cold. They are not numb. They are selective. They do not allow temporary feelings to dictate permanent behavior. This makes them unpredictable. And unpredictability is power. Manipulation depends on emotional predictability. If someone can provoke anger, guilt, or fear on command, they control you. Emotional alchemy removes this access. You still feel emotion, but you do not broadcast it. You do not react publicly. You do not leak internal states. This creates an internal advantage. People can no longer read you easily. They cannot time you. They cannot trigger you reliably. You become opaque. Opacity is protection, but this discipline is uncomfortable because emotions demand expression. Anger wants release. Fear wants reassurance. Sadness wants comfort. Discipline denies them all. Instead, emotion is redirected into action. Anger becomes the focus. Fear becomes preparation. Frustration becomes endurance. This redirection is not natural. It must be trained. At first, your body will resist. You will feel tension, restlessness, inner conflict. This is not failure. This is the old self fighting extinction. Emotional alchemy requires repetition. Every time you act against emotion, you weaken its authority. Every time you delay your reaction, you strengthen your self-command. Eventually, something shifts. You stop being pulled by mood. You stop negotiating with impulse. Action becomes automatic. This is where discipline turns lethal. Because once emotion loses veto power, nothing external can stop you. Loss does not break you. Insults do not derail you. Rejection does not define you. You continue. And this continuation terrifies others, because most people are controlled by how they feel. When they encounter someone who is not, they sense danger, even if they cannot explain why. This is the hidden advantage of emotional alchemy. You are no longer synchronized with the emotional rhythm of the crowd. You operate on a different frequency. This also eliminates anxiety. Anxiety is the fear of emotional discomfort. When emotions no longer dictate action, anxiety loses leverage. You stop avoiding discomfort. You stop running scenarios. You stop rehearsing outcomes. You simply move. This creates clarity. Clarity sharpens decisions. Sharp decisions accelerate momentum. Momentum replaces motivation, and momentum is unstoppable. This is why disciplined individuals appear calm under pressure, not because pressure is absent, but because emotion is no longer steering. They feel everything. They obey nothing. This is emotional alchemy, the conversion of weakness into fuel, the refusal to be governed by internal noise. In the next chapter, we will take this further, from internal mastery to external isolation, because once emotion is controlled, the next enemy is influence. And influence comes from people. Chapter 4. The weaponization of isolation. Once emotion is no longer in control, a new danger appears. People. Not because people are evil by default, but because influence is subtle, constant, and corrosive. Most individuals lose discipline, not because they are weak, but because they are surrounded by noise, surrounded by opinions, surrounded by expectations, surrounded by emotional leakage from others. This is where isolation becomes a weapon. Isolation is not loneliness. Isolation is environmental control. The undisciplined person fears being alone. The disciplined person fears being diluted. Every human interaction leaves residue. Someone's doubt becomes your hesitation. Someone's comfort becomes your excuse. Someone's fear becomes your caution. You don't notice it happening, but over time, your edge softens. Isolation prevents contamination. This is why every serious transformation in history occurred away from the crowd. Warriors trained in seclusion. The monks withdrew into silence. Strategists planned alone. Not because society is bad, but because creation requires separation. Isolation is the laboratory of identity. When you are alone, there is no performance, no validation, no audience, only the truth. And most people avoid isolation because it exposes them. In solitude, excuses collapse. Distractions disappear. Self-deception becomes loud. This is why isolation feels uncomfortable at first. Your mind begins replaying unfinished conversations. Your emotions search for external mirrors. Your ego demands recognition. But if you stay, something rare happens. You begin to hear your real thoughts. Not the thoughts shaped by approval, not the thoughts softened for acceptance, the raw ones. Isolation clarifies priorities. You start noticing how much energy was wasted maintaining unnecessary relationships, explaining yourself, reacting to other people's moods. Isolation returns stolen energy, and energy is power. But isolation must be intentional. This is not about disappearing from life entirely. It is about selective absence. You remove yourself from environments that reward weakness, distraction, or mediocrity. You reduce exposure to people who drain, doubt, or derail your direction. Not through conflict, not through explanation, through distance. Silence is cleaner than confrontation. Distance is stronger than debate. This is why isolation unsettles others. When you withdraw without explanation, people feel uncertainty. They can no longer read you. They can no longer influence you easily. They no longer know where they stand. This shifts power dynamics. Those who benefited from your availability will resist. They will label you arrogant, cold, changed. These labels are defensive reactions. Because access was revoked, isolation breaks dependency, both theirs and yours. And once dependency is gone, clarity intensifies. Your routines harden. Your standards rise. Your tolerance for nonsense drops. You begin to move faster internally. Decisions become simpler. Emotional noise fades. Execution becomes clean. Isolation also strengthens identity. When no one is watching, you discover who you are when nothing is rewarded. This builds internal authority. You stop needing reassurance. You stop checking reactions. You stop adjusting yourself to fit rooms. This creates quiet confidence, the kind that does not announce itself. And quiet confidence is intimidating, because it does not seek permission. It does not ask to be understood. It simply exists. Isolation also prepares you for unpredictability. When you are alone long enough, you stop depending on emotional regulation from others. You self-regulate. This makes you resilient. Crisis no longer destabilizes you. Silence no longer scares you. Being misunderstood no longer matters. You become internally complete. This is why isolation is dangerous to manipulation. Manipulation requires access. Isolation limits access. Influence requires exposure. Isolation controls exposure. Eventually, isolation stops feeling empty. It starts feeling focused. You are not alone. You are undistracted. And from this state, discipline compounds. Emotion is mastered. The environment is controlled. Influence is minimized. Only one threat remains: unpredictability. In the next chapter, we will explore why becoming unreadable and emotionally neutral is one of the most feared traits in human dynamics. Chapter 5. The fear of unpredictability. Power is not loud. Power is not aggressive. Power is unreadable. Most people believe power comes from dominance, from asserting opinions, reacting forcefully, or controlling conversations. This belief exposes weakness. True power does not need to react. It creates uncertainty, and uncertainty is terrifying. Human beings crave predictability. They feel safe when they can anticipate behavior. They relax when they can calculate reactions. This is why emotional people are easy to control. If someone knows what makes you angry, they know how to destabilize you. If someone knows what makes you guilty, they know how to extract compliance. If someone knows what excites you, they know how to distract you. Predictability is vulnerability, and this is why unpredictability becomes a weapon. The disciplined individual does not remove emotion. They remove reactions. Reaction is a signal. Signals are readable. Readable systems are controllable. Unpredictability breaks this chain. When you do not react as expected, people lose footing. Insults fail. Provocations stall. Manipulation collapses. Silence replaces response. And silence creates psychological pressure. Most people cannot tolerate silence. Silence forces interpretation. It invites projection. It creates doubt. When you do not react, others begin reacting to you. They fill the void with assumptions. They reveal their own fears. They expose intentions. This reverses power flow. Instead of you responding to the world starts responding to you. This is why disciplined individuals appear intimidating, not because they threaten, but because they cannot be read. Unpredictability is not chaos. It is controlled neutrality. You are consistent in values, but unpredictable in expression. You do not reward provocation. You do not punish curiosity. You do not confirm expectations. You simply proceed. This confuses those who rely on emotional leverage, because leverage requires reaction. When reaction disappears, leverage dies. This is also why unpredictable people are often misunderstood. They are labeled cold, detached, arrogant. These labels are defenses. They come from those who lost access. Unpredictability denies emotional entry points. You no longer explain yourself. You no longer justify behavior. You no longer announce intentions. You act. Results follow. This is unsettling, because society trains people to exchange signals constantly. Approval signals, disapproval signals, affiliation signals. When you withdraw from this exchange, you disrupt social equilibrium. People don't know how to categorize you, and what cannot be categorized cannot be controlled. This is where discipline matures. At this stage, you are no longer fighting temptation. You are no longer managing emotion. You are managing perception. Your internal world is stable. Your external expression is minimal. This creates gravity. People watch more closely. They speak more carefully. They hesitate before acting, not because you demanded respect, but because unpredictability demands caution. This also protects you from emotional manipulation. When outcomes are unknown, manipulators retreat. They need certainty to apply pressure. When certainty disappears, risk increases, and risk is avoided. Unpredictability also strengthens self-trust. You stop rehearsing conversations. You stop pre-planning reactions. You stop explaining yourself in advance. You remain present, and presence is powerful. Most people are busy managing impressions. You are busy executing direction. This difference compounds. Unpredictability also restores autonomy. When you are predictable, others anticipate and adjust you. When you are unpredictable, others adapt to you. This subtle shift reorders hierarchy, not through force, through ambiguity. Ambiguity is power's shadow. It allows you to move without resistance, to observe without exposure, to decide without pressure. This is why masters of discipline often appear quiet, not because they lack confidence, but because they do not need reinforcement. They do not rush to clarify. They do not rush to explain. They allow silence to work. Silence forces respect. Noise invites negotiation. At this level, discipline is no longer an effort. It is posture, a posture of restraint, of neutrality, of readiness. You are no longer reactive. You are positioned, and this positioning prepares you for the next evolution. Because once unpredictability is established externally, the final battle becomes internal. Not against emotion, not against people, but against comfort. In the next chapter, we will confront the standard of the absolute, where discipline becomes non-negotiable and mediocrity becomes intolerable. Chapter 6. The standard of the absolute. Discipline reaches its final form when standards become non-negotiable. Until this point, discipline was a method, a tool, a weapon. Here, discipline becomes law. Most people believe their problem is motivation. It is not. Their problem is low standards. They allow exceptions. They negotiate with comfort. They tolerate weakness when it is convenient. This tolerance is the real enemy. The standard of the absolute means there is no longer a debate, no emotional appeal, no situational excuse, no conditional effort, only execution. Absolute standards are not flexible. They do not adjust to mood. They do not bend for fatigue. They do not soften for sympathy. This is why most people reject them. Because absolute standards are unforgiving, and unforgiving systems expose mediocrity. The disciplined individual does not ask, "Can I do this today?" They ask, "What is the standard, and did I meet it?" This shift destroys entitlement. You are no longer special. You are no longer exempt. You are no longer the exception. You either comply with your own code, or you fail. There is no middle ground. This is psychologically violent because the human mind craves comfort. It seeks justification. It looks for loopholes. Absolute standards eliminate loopholes. They remove choice. And when choice is removed, clarity appears. You no longer waste energy deciding. You simply follow protocol. This is why elite systems are rigid. Military discipline, athletic training, monastic orders. Rigidity creates reliability. Reliability creates power. Power creates freedom. Most people reverse this order. They seek freedom first, but freedom without discipline leads to chaos. Absolute standards reverse the sequence. You impose order first. Freedom emerges later. The standard of the absolute also exposes time theft. Most people believe they lack time. They do not. They leak it. Through distraction, through emotional indulgence, through unnecessary conversation. Absolute standards guard time ruthlessly. If something does not serve the mission, it is removed. If someone does not respect the standard, distance is created, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. At this level, discipline becomes impersonal. You are not punishing yourself. You are not motivating yourself. You are enforcing policy. This removes emotional friction. You stop arguing with yourself. You stop bargaining. You stop asking for permission. You simply act. This creates momentum. Momentum removes doubt. Doubt is born from hesitation. Hesitation disappears when rules are clear. Absolute standards also eliminate resentment. Why? Because resentment comes from violated expectations. When expectations are absolute and self-imposed, you blame no one. Not circumstances, not people, not luck, only execution. This is uncomfortable, but clean. And cleanliness matters. Mental clutter weakens discipline. Absolute standards simplify the mind. You know what is required. You know when you failed. You know when you succeeded. There is no emotional confusion. This also changes how others perceive you. People sense rigidity. They may not understand it, but they feel it. They notice you do not negotiate with comfort. They notice you do not chase approval. They notice you do not drift. This creates quiet authority, not because you speak louder, but because you move consistently. Consistency is intimidating because it reveals contrast. Your discipline highlights their excuses. Your standards expose their compromises. This is why disciplined individuals are often criticized. Criticism is defensive. Absolute standards hold up a mirror, and most people do not like what they see. But the disciplined individual does not lower the mirror. They do not soften the standard to make others comfortable. They continue. Because at this stage, discipline is no longer about growth. It is about maintenance of sovereignty. You are not trying to become someone else. You are protecting who you have become. This is where comfort becomes the enemy. Comfort erodes standards. Comfort invites negotiation. Comfort whispers that enough is sufficient. The standard of the absolute rejects enough. It demands excellence, consistently, not perfection, but non-negotiable effort. You still fail. You still misstep. But failure is corrected immediately. No excuses, no stories. Correction. This is what separates disciplined people from intense people. Intensity burns out. Standards endure. At this level, discipline no longer feels dramatic. It feels quiet, stable, inevitable. You no longer rely on willpower. Willpower fluctuates. Standards do not. This is the threshold before final transformation. Because once standards become absolute, the old self can no longer survive. There is no room for it, no tolerance, no justification, and so it must die. In the next chapter, we will confront the death of the old self, the most painful, necessary, and irreversible phase of discipline, where identity itself is rewritten. Chapter 7. Guarding time like territory. Once standards become absolute, a final resource demands protection. Time. Not money, not energy, not reputation. Time. Every empire rises or falls on how it defends its territory, and time is the only territory you truly own. Most people treat time casually. They spend it emotionally. They leak it socially. They surrender it politely. Then they wonder why nothing compounds. Guarding time like territory means accepting a brutal truth. Every intrusion is an invasion. Not every invasion is hostile, but every invasion costs ground. Undisciplined people believe time is abundant. Disciplined people know time is finite and irreversible. You cannot earn it back. You cannot negotiate with it. You cannot store it. You can only defend it. This is why disciplined individuals appear unavailable. They are not arrogant. They are territorial. They understand that attention is a weapon, and weapons are not handed out freely. Every request competes with the mission. Every distraction dilutes momentum. Every unnecessary conversation taxes focus. Time is lost not through catastrophe, but through permission. Small permissions, polite permissions, social permissions. A message answered too quickly. A meeting accepted without purpose. A conversation continued without value. These are not neutral acts. They are withdrawals. Guarding time begins with redefining access. Not everyone deserves proximity. Not every issue deserves attention. Not every emotion deserves a response. This does not make you cruel. It makes you precise. Most people confuse kindness with availability. Availability is not kindness. It is weakness disguised as virtue. True discipline understands this. You can be respectful without being reachable. You can be polite without being exposed. You can be present without being consumed. Guarding time requires removing emotional guilt. Guilt is the primary weapon used to breach boundaries. You should be more available. You're being distant. You've changed. These statements are not observations. They are pressure tactics. They appeal to social obligation. The disciplined individual does not react. They recognize the tactic, and they hold the line. Time defense is not loud. It is a quiet refusal. No explanation, no apology, no justification, just absence. Absence is powerful because it cannot be argued with. Silence ends negotiation. Distance ends manipulation. Guarding time also requires internal discipline, because the biggest threat is not others. It is self-indulgence, scrolling, overthinking, mental wandering. These are internal invasions. They fracture attention, and fractured attention cannot build anything. This is why disciplined people create rigid structures, scheduled solitude, scheduled execution, scheduled rest. Structure is not rigid for its own sake. Structure is perimeter defense. It creates protected zones where progress happens. Inside these zones, time compounds. Outside these zones, time evaporates. This also explains why disciplined individuals move slowly socially, but fast strategically. They do not rush conversation. They do not chase interaction. But when they act decisively, because their time was not diluted beforehand. Guarding time also changes perception. When your availability decreases, your value increases. Scarcity creates gravity. People begin respecting your schedule. They speak more deliberately. They waste less of your attention, not because you demanded it, but because access became limited. This is not manipulation. It is a consequence. Unlimited access breeds disregard. Limited access breeds respect. Guarding time also forces prioritization. You cannot protect everything. You must choose, and choosing reveals values. If something does not move the mission forward, it is reduced. If someone consistently consumes without contributing, distance increases. This is not emotional. It is strategic. Territory must be defended selectively. Guarding time eventually eliminates anxiety. Anxiety comes from feeling behind, from reacting instead of directing, from being pulled instead of moving. When time is defended, you regain directional control. You stop reacting to urgency. You start acting on importance. Urgency is usually external. Importance is internal. Discipline always sides with importance. This is also where freedom emerges, not the freedom to do anything, but the freedom to do what matters. True freedom is protected space. Without defense, freedom collapses into chaos. This is why people who go with the flow rarely build anything lasting. The flow leads wherever pressure pushes. Discipline creates current. Guarding time also prepares you for isolation, because defending territory requires solitude. You will disappoint people. You will miss gatherings. You will be misunderstood. This is the cost. But discipline understands trade-offs. Short-term discomfort, long-term sovereignty. Guarding time is the final external defense. Once time is secured, nothing can rush you. Nothing can drain you. Nothing can scatter you. You move deliberately. You act when ready, and readiness becomes permanent. At this point, discipline is complete. Emotion is mastered. Isolation is strategic. Unpredictability is established. Standards are absolute. Time is defended. Only one transformation remains, the most painful one, because once everything else is secured, the old identity no longer fits, and it must be removed. In the final chapter, we will confront the death of the old self, where discipline stops shaping behavior and begins rewriting identity itself. Chapter 8. The Death of the Old Self. Every system of discipline reaches a point where improvement is no longer enough. At this stage, refinement fails, adjustment fails, optimization fails, because the problem is no longer behavior. The problem is identity. The old self cannot be disciplined into something new. It must be ended. This is the most difficult phase, because it feels like a loss. The old self is familiar. It carries history, memories, habits, excuses that once felt reasonable. But familiarity is not a strength, and discipline does not coexist with outdated identities. The old self survives on emotional rewards. It wants recognition, approval, reassurance, validation. It seeks comfort in being understood. It apologizes for ambition. It explains its intentions to feel safe. This self is not evil. It is simply unfit for power, and discipline is not cruel. It is precise. The death of the old self begins with a realization: you cannot carry the same personality into a different future. Most people try. They want stronger results without surrendering weaker traits. They want authority without discomfort. This contradiction creates internal tension, and tension eventually collapses discipline. So discipline does something radical. It removes identity attachment. You stop asking, "Is this who I am?" and start asking, "Is this who I must be?" This is not self-hatred, it is self-selection. You are choosing which version survives. The old self resists this process. It uses emotion as defense. Guilt, fear, nostalgia. It reminds you of who you used to be, of people who knew you differently, of expectations you once fulfilled. This resistance is not a sign to stop. It is confirmation you are near the threshold, because identity fights hardest at extinction. The death of the old self requires symbolic violence, not physical, psychological. You stop explaining yourself to people who no longer have access. You stop justifying choices that align with your standard. You stop softening language to preserve comfort. Silence replaces explanation. Consistency replaces persuasion. The old self dies when it no longer receives reinforcement. No validation, no reassurance, no emotional negotiation, only action. This creates isolation, not because you want to be alone, but because the old identity was social. It existed in relation to others' expectations. When you withdraw from that exchange, the old self starves. This is why people often feel grief during transformation. They are not losing people. They are losing permission structures, who they were allowed to be, what they were rewarded for, what they were excused from. Discipline removes these permissions, and the mind panics. But if you remain still, if you do not retreat, something emerges. A quieter self, less reactive, less expressive, more deliberate. This new self does not seek applause. It does not broadcast progress. It does not narrate struggle. It moves. The death of the old self also rewires fear. Fear no longer signals danger. It signals transition. When fear appears, the disciplined individual does not avoid it. They proceed. Fear becomes confirmation that identity is shedding. This makes it difficult to stop, because most people retreat when fear appears. You advance. The old self also dies when time is no longer spent maintaining image. No more overthinking tone. No more managing perception. No more emotional accounting. Energy is redirected inward. Execution accelerates. This is when discipline becomes irreversible. You are no longer practicing discipline. You are disciplined. Your default state changes. Comfort no longer tempts. Excuses no longer persuade. Validation no longer motivates. You feel lighter, not happier, clearer. Clarity replaces emotional intensity. This clarity frightens others because it signals independence, and independence threatens systems built on need. You are no longer easily influenced, no longer easily guilted, no longer easily delayed. This is why power respects distance. The old self wanted belonging. The new self values alignment. The old self asked, "Do they understand me?" The new self asks, "Does this move the mission?" This transition is permanent. You cannot return, not because you are forbidden, but because you no longer fit. The old self feels small now, inconvenient, inefficient, and eventually irrelevant. This is the final act of discipline, not the creation of habits, not emotional control, not isolation, but identity replacement, where discipline stops being something you do and becomes something you are. At this point, anxiety disappears, because anxiety belongs to the old self, the self that needed reassurance, the self that feared judgment, the self that negotiated with doubt. The new self does not negotiate, it executes. This is not happiness, it is sovereignty, and sovereignty is calm, cold, quiet, stable. You are no longer driven, you are directed. This is the end of transformation and the beginning of power. Closing chapter, becoming unmanipulable. At the end of discipline, something rare happens. You stop reacting. Not because you are indifferent, but because there is nothing left to pull. This is what it means to become unmanipulable. Manipulation only works when there is an opening, a need, a hunger, a wound. Throughout this book, every chapter closed one opening. Emotion was mastered. Isolation was weaponized. Unpredictability was established. Standards became absolute. Time was defended. The old self was buried. Now, there is nothing exposed. To be unmanipulable is not to be aggressive. It is to be completed. Most people believe manipulation is external, something others do to them. In reality, manipulation is an internal agreement. You are manipulated when you need approval. You are manipulated when you fear rejection. You are manipulated when comfort matters more than truth. Once these needs dissolve, influence collapses. This is why disciplined individuals appear immune, not because they are smarter, but because they are no longer negotiable. There is no emotional leverage, no urgency to exploit, no guilt to activate, no validation to withhold. Pressure fails. This does not mean life becomes easy. It means life becomes clear. Clear choices, clear consequences, clear direction. You no longer debate internally. Internal debate is the gateway to manipulation. When you hesitate, others insert opinions. When you doubt, others supply narratives. When you seek reassurance, others gain control. Becoming unmanipulable closes these doors. You decide before others speak. You act before permission is granted. This creates a new posture. Calm under pressure, silence under provocation, movement without explanation. This posture unsettles people, because most systems rely on reaction. Social systems, emotional systems, power systems. When reaction disappears, systems malfunction. This is why silence becomes your final weapon. Silence does not argue. Silence does not justify. Silence does not plead. Silence forces others to reveal themselves. They fill the gap. They explain too much. They react emotionally. They expose intent. You observe. Observation is control. The unmanipulable individual is always watching, not in paranoia, but in awareness. They see patterns. They detect pressure. They recognize timing. And because they do not react immediately, they retain choice. Choice is the root of power. Most people lose choice emotionally. They are pushed into reactions, cornered into explanations, rushed into decisions. You are not. Because discipline created space between stimulus and response. In that space, sovereignty lives. Being unmanipulable also changes relationships. Some people will drift away, not because you rejected them, but because access changed. Others will approach it more carefully. They sense firmness. This filters your environment automatically. You no longer need to cut people off aggressively. Your presence does it for you. This is quiet power. It does not announce itself. It does not demand recognition. It simply reshapes the room. The unmanipulable individual also stops seeking certainty. They do not need guarantees. They do not need reassurance. They are comfortable moving without consensus. This makes them dangerous to systems built on compliance. But disciplined power is not chaos. It is my responsibility. You are no longer a piece on the board. You are a player. And players accept consequences. They do not complain. They do not explain. They do not outsource blame. They own outcomes. This ownership is heavy, but it is clean. Clean systems do not leak energy. Clean minds do not panic. This is why becoming unmanipulable eliminates anxiety. Anxiety requires dependence. Dependence on outcomes, dependence on approval, dependence on emotional safety. When dependence ends, anxiety fades, not instantly, but permanently. You stop asking, what will they think? You start asking, what must be done? This is the final shift. From social orientation to internal command. You no longer live to be understood. You live to be aligned. Aligned with standards. Aligned with time. Aligned with purpose. This alignment is unbreakable because it does not rely on mood or motivation or validation. It relies on structure. And structure outlasts emotion. This is what this book was truly about. Not discipline as punishment, not discipline as restriction, but discipline is liberation, freedom from emotional control, freedom from social manipulation, freedom from internal chaos. You are no longer governed, you govern. And governance is quiet, no applause, no drama, no noise, just execution. If this book has done its job, you will not feel inspired. You will feel resolved. Resolved to protect standards. Resolved to guard time. Resolved to remain silent when noise tempts you. Resolved to move without permission. This is not the end. It is the baseline. From here on, progress compounds quietly. And if you choose to continue this path, to apply what you've absorbed rather than admire it, remember this: the world cannot manipulate what it cannot read, and it cannot read what no longer reacts. If this journey resonated with you, if it sharpened something inside you, stay connected, not for motivation, but for alignment. Because discipline is not built once. It is maintained, and sovereignty is a practice. Welcome to the final state, unmanipulable.